Welcome to today's meeting. This is a public meeting and members of the public and press are permitted to report on the proceedings. Reporting includes filming, photography, making an audio recording and providing commentary on proceedings. Please note this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page of the Council's website. By choosing to attend this public meeting, you are deemed to have given your consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or unpublished. If the alarm sounds, the premises must be evacuated immediately. Do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed. Once you have left the building, the assembly point is in the High Street opposite the Guildhall. Members and other speakers are reminded to use their microphone when speaking. Thank you. Agenda item 1, appointment of substitutes.
Chair, yes, we do have one substitute tonight. James Stanley is here for Chris Mitchell. Just to mention that Shane Flynn, Corporate Director, Finance and Resources, isn't able to be here in person, but he's joining us on Zoom for this meeting. And if Shane is then, if he'd like to turn his camera on, he should be able to introduce himself and we'll know that he's here.
Evening, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah, we can hear that okay. Shane, I don't know if you want to turn your camera off and if you want to participate in the debate, turn your camera back on again and we'll be able to let you back in. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, Julian.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, declarations of any interest. None recorded. Agenda item 3, public participation. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, minutes of the last meeting. If we can go through them page by page, please. Page 1. Page 2. And page 3. We happy they're recorded as accurate? Thank you. Agenda item 5, quarter 2 performance report. I believe that's you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll go through the report in the normal fashion. If we first of all look at the updates on the various projects, first of all, the commercial strategy delivery. The notes here are fairly comprehensive, but just touching on a couple of points, you'll see in paragraph 1, which refers to the levelling up bid and the opportunity to improve the facilities at Pitchcroft and at Nunnery Wood. And we await the report, the result of that bid being advised. Equally, the Shared Prosperity Fund, an opportunity for further significant funding for the council. And again, the bid has been submitted and we wait the outcome of that. Further down, it refers to the affordable housing proposition, and that's later on the agenda of this meeting. If we go on to the income strategy delivery, this refers to council's various revenue streams. First paragraph talks about car parking, which we're all familiar with the challenges there post pandemic, and obviously business rates, where we await the outcome of the government's review. The third one is then sports facilities. As we've noted before, this is mainly the first of all the joint venture with the hockey club, and we await them advising they want to take up the loan that was agreed. And second, the work on the all-weather pitch at Purdiswell. Specification, as we say, has been published. Project manager has been appointed, and the target date has therefore been reset to end of March for this financial year. And then, last but not least, the development of the housing enabling strategy. The note there just reports that there are a number of quick wins that the council can can achieve, and those are being developed. That brings us on to the various income streams which we normally go through at this meeting, and I'll just comment on some of those as we go through. The Guildhall, so the room hire relating to this building, the comment notes that bookings are now recovering, albeit at a lower level than pre-pandemic. Having said that, since this report, we now have October's income, which is also quite positive. So we hope that's moving in the right direction. Trade and garden waste are both success stories for the council. We have a record level of income from both of these. And on trade waste, we've recently appointed a new member of staff from a neighbouring council who will hopefully help the marketing of attracting new accounts. In garden waste, it seems that the people who opened new accounts during the pandemic, when people couldn't actually get out to take their garden waste, are renewing that subscription, having decided that the service really is good value for money. From a property point of view, this is the gross income from the council's investment, and I guess the positive message there from during the pandemic was that we didn't suffer any loss of income from those properties. Car parks, as we've said, the income has recovered significantly since the period of lockdown during the pandemic, but is still running at slightly below the pre-pandemic level. Important to note there that in the comments that the figure for September's income hasn't yet been added because of the complications surrounding the credit card problems. The latest estimate I've seen of that is that the income is in line with previous months, and October seems quite positive as well. So hopefully, again, that's moving in the right direction. Bereavement income, now that we're out of the pandemic, income has stabilised and is running just below the budget. Development management continues to be a challenge. Income held up quite well during the pandemic, but since then a reduced number of planning applications, both in domestic and in the larger one-offs, is resulting in a lower level of income than we've seen previously. However, that can be quite unpredictable. And then last but not least, the neighbourhood income, mainly around services provided to the county council, is slightly understated because we're waiting for invoices to be raised there by the team up at the depot. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Councillor Stephen and then Councillor Stanley.
Obviously very good news that we've done quite well on the trade and garden waste. A question really, how do we market those services, and could we do more in terms of marketing those things? Or are we just waiting for people to arrive and say, oh, we'd like this service? Is there any more we can do to promote what we do?
Thank you. I think if we take them separately, because they are a different service to a quite distinct customer base. From a garden waste point of view, we now have nearly 9,000 accounts across the city, and I think having been through the pandemic as well, we are probably approaching a fairly mature level there. In terms of marketing, the best recommendation there is people talking to their neighbours and picking up off that. Trade waste is obviously a different animal, and I think having, as I said, attracted that new member of staff, that will increase the marketing opportunity considerably there. I think she is relatively new to the team. I think the depot are reviewing how best to approach that. In the past, we have done some radio advertising and some cold calling of customers within the city. So I think there is more potential there.
So is that all this person's going to do? Are they dedicated on increasing the business, or have they got other work that they're meant to be doing as well?
No, that's just part of their role. So they're the admin support for the Tradeways team. But part of that role will be doing some marketing.
Okay, thank
Councillor Stanley?
Chair, thanks very much. In terms of Guildhall income, to what extent, if at all, can we measure this against the market? What's going on in other areas? You know, to what extent are other organisations, businesses recovering at a greater pace or a slower pace? Where are we in that recovery sort of league table, as it were? And I suppose the second point to the question is the measures that have been put in place to look at events and marketing and so forth. You know, how confident are we that we can, you know, build some resilience into that funding stream going forward?
Thank you. In terms of benchmarking our progress of recovery against other organisations, that's obviously quite difficult because the competition, hotels, the racecourse, for example, aren't keen to share their success or otherwise. The team here are currently reviewing the proposition. There have been a number of changes in the Guildhall team. They're reviewing the proposition and with a view to deciding what the best offer most suited to this building is. Staging large weddings, for example, is a good source of income, but is also quite resource intensive in terms of having the team to provide for it. So that's one of the things that they are considering. I think once they've done that, we'll be clearer on the best way to approach it.
And quicker. On many occasions over the years, and it would be a concern, you know, if there were to be a sort of a diminishing of this sort of activity. You know, is there a time frame in terms of how we can measure this?
As I said in the narrative a few minutes ago, bookings are recovering, so the income stream is still there and is reasonably healthy. I think it's just a question of how we can best maximise that and the sort of events we want to target. Obviously, there's a big difference between having a wedding and a craft fair, for example, and those each require a different level of support. And it's deciding where we best pitch what we want to do.
Yeah, I'm just going to pitch in there, actually. I mean, there's two things for me. One, in terms of there have been a couple of high-profile venues that haven't been able to do their traditional, you know, weddings and things like that due to, you know, lack of staff shortages, etc., across the city, which you would have thought actually meant that there's a greater opportunity for the Guildhall to be servicing that element of the market. And the second thing is, it's a classic example when a team is disbanded for whatever reasons or moves on, the impact that has on existing services, because that team was a close-knit team. It did a really good job in terms of getting us to, pre-COVID to where we were, and that's all changed. So, I mean, I think we do need to have a look at actually what has happened there and whether it's management decisions or things like that have impacted that. I think we really need to look at in terms of into detail what's actually happened from where they were performing to where they are now. Steve?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We comment on when things are looking a bit down, but I think it's worth mentioning the fact about bereavement and the income from the services there, which is not an insignificant sum. And the fact that it wasn't that long ago that we were very, very concerned about the drops because of I'll say competition in relation to other services that are provided not far away from Worcester City. But we seem to be maintaining or coming back up pretty well and have done for some while. And I think a lot of that has to do with probably the manager that is in place there, and his style of what he's brought to the services, to keep it at a very, very good standard and good level. So it just sort of shows the worth of having the right person in the right place at the right time, basically. Thank you.
Jill?
Thank you. I was just wondering, back to the Guildhall, is there a plan of any sort to hook it up with some of the arts events that we've seen recently, like the Living Histories, for example, going around the building and doing things of that nature, installation type things that might be of interest to people?
I'm not aware of anything specifically, but I can pass that thought on to the team. We have in the past done tours of the Guildhall as one-offs for schools, local organisations and so on. Yeah, I'm not aware of anything specific at the moment.
The reason I ask is if it becomes known as an event place of that nature, then you might get other business anyway, as people start to realise what they have here, that's all.
Thanks. Do we have any other questions on this? Just one which keeps reoccurring for us, the hockey club. Are they ever going to take up that loan with us? What is the actual delay behind it? I know we keep coming back saying, you know, it's going to be a potential revenue earner for us, but until they take it up, it's not, is it?
No, thank you, Chair. I was discussing that with Director of Finance and Resources only today. We have said only recently again to the hockey club that the loan is available when they want it, and they've said they will be in touch. It's one of those things that we can't do any more from our end. The ball's in their court. Whether the recent interest in movements or in interest rates will prompt a reaction from them, we'll see.
Okay, and that money's been specifically allocated for that project, I'm assuming, and from our perspective, could we invest it elsewhere?
As long as the money has been set aside, and as long as they're not taking up the offer, then yes, we have that money invested on short-term deposit.
Thank you. Are we happy to note the report? Yeah, thank you. Agenda item 6 then, the affordable housing and potential scheme for proposal. I think it's Shane.
Hello there. Can you hear me still? Hello, can you hear me? Yes, good. Thank you. I had to put my earphones on. I wasn't able to hear very well. Members will have seen the report, which obviously has a strong commercial element to it. So we need to discuss that in the exempt session. Just by way of introduction to it, we need to think about the information that we have in hand, which I'll take you through in more detail subsequently. But we need to get to a certain position in the development of the proposal. So I would like to seek some independent financial advice with regard to where we go next with this. As I've said, it's in the introduction, we recognise that the council has a need for sub-market rental properties. This clearly comes through in the ARC report, and although the figures in there suggest a very high number of new affordable homes which are needed, well, I think we have to take into account that also the wider South Worcestershire partnership in that. So the actual amount of need is something that which is still to be fully determined, I think, but there's no doubt, I think everyone is in agreement that there is a need for affordable homes to be developed. And this is an opportunity which provides that. So the ARC report suggested a number of ways in which we might do that, which are some of which I've listed in the report there, but they include things like establishing a housing company or working with other providers to create an opportunity which we might otherwise not get. So to start to actively engage in the market and bring around opportunities rather than passively waiting for properties to become available. So we were approached earlier this year at the start of the summer by a company which brought forward proposals around how we might do that. And following some discussions, they then sought to explore the local areas, what's the local market, and see what was available, and came back with a proposal which is set out in the more detailed paper. Since then, I've been looking at it myself in a lot of detail, talking to some. I've had some independent commentary as well from a number of other sources, but I think I've reached a point where I need to get a third party to come along and appraise what we have so far and enable yourselves and myself as well to be sure that our understanding and our assessment to this point is accurate and we haven't missed anything, and there aren't any risks which we haven't understood or might be missing, and also to give a bit of advice in terms of where to go next with the proposal. So in terms of this initial report, what I'm seeking at the moment is as an agreement to purchase some additional independent advice. Obviously, that's subject to us wanting to move forward with the proposal. It seems to me that the decision as to whether we should move forward with the proposal really requires additional input from a third party. So my initial report is just to request that we set aside some funding to enable me to do that, if members are so minded. Can I just make one slight suggestion, though? I said in the financial implications that the £10,000 should be funded from the Housing for Vulnerable Tenants Reserve. Unfortunately, that's not within the gift of this committee, which is responsible for the Income Management Reserve. So I just changed the wording there to say that we'd take the £10,000 from the Income Management Reserve and then refund that reserve with the Vulnerable Tenants Reserve if we go forward at a later date. I hope that change is okay. Is that all right for the moment in terms of that particular report? Any questions on this element before we go into the more detailed report subsequently?
Yeah. Do we have any questions for Shane? Do we understand what the £10,000 is being asked for at the moment? All right. Okay. So are we happy to do that and move into closed session, or do you want a discussion on that? Yeah. So in that case, then we will move forward with the recommendation 1.1 that the subcommittee notes proposals brought forward for securing housing at affordable rents and agrees to an allocation of up to £10,000 for consultancy advice to scrutinise the proposal. All those in favour?
That's carried, Chair.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, can we move into close? We all agreed with that?